That boy who used to spend days in the garage with only his imagination and a couple hand tools has gotten lost in the grind of the real world. I think it's time we find him. Today, I'm turning it all upside down. I have a plan and a cut list. Yeah, I know. First time for everything, right? And I think I might actually follow it. No chance. It's Therapy Thursday where we get out to the shop and build something. Anything. Today, it's not a small project, not a particularly big one either. Let's go with smallish, and it's a lot more satisfying than coasters and tea lights. Don't get me wrong, there are a million ways to do tea lights, and I hope to keep my channel alive long enough to knock off at least a couple hundred of them, just not 3 times a week. Speaking of which, if you haven't subscribed, please do, and comment and like, and not just my channel, but any of the smaller channels you watch. It helps keep a variety in the mix. Without it, you might end up viewing the same project over and over and over again. All right, let's see here. My scrap wood, a 2x4 chunk, beat up, but look at those growth rings. Compare it to a new one. Amazing. You see, I'm not the only one getting better with age. And I have some old drawer sides and front plates. I chose these because of the dados. You see, I want a rabbit on the end, and this saves me from having to make them. And now that I'm looking at them, there might just be enough meat on the bone that I don't even need the 2x4s. Yes, and yes. Even better. Although we'll still need 12 inches of the 2x4 for the back slats, but we'll get to that. I ripped the dados off the table saw, then ripped the 5.5 inches, just like a 1x6 would be. And that leaves us enough to get our 1.5-inch door frame from them as well. Perfect. All right, the 2x4. We stand it up on end and rip about a halfway through. If your saw is underpowered, go a third or even a quarter if you need to. Raise it up and go again. I flip it over, same side against the fence, and finish it off. We're going for a 1/4 inch thick here. These are going to be the slats for the back of this piece. If you don't want to do slats, you can always go with a 1/4 inch or even 1/8 inch plywood. Done, we hit up the miter saw and cut the dimension. Go slow, keep your blade sharp, 0 tolerance faceplate, and tear out should be minimal. I know it's supposed to be rustic, but there is a difference between rustic and shoddy craftsmanship. Plus, if you aim for perfection, you'll seldom reach it and probably end up with rustic anyway. Well, that didn't take long. Cut list is now obsolete. I was going to go for 12 inches total height for the cabinet. Same as a couple of the antique ones I have seen. But when I was ready to cut the face frames at 10.5, which would be the interior, I panicked. I couldn't do it. It felt too tight. So I cut it to 13.5, adding an extra 1.5 inches. I'd rather have that little bit of extra breathing room in there. I also went an extra inch wider. For those of you that are new to the channel, it's probably a good time to point out I build by look and feel, and I don't build 10 practice ones before filming. What you see is what you get. I tend to build items that I either plan on using or gifting. Here we are. Any guesses yet? And don't say cabinet. Some things are obvious. This is a specific kind of cabinet, and it's needed in today's day and age. We have on the left the face frame. Middle is the cabinet itself, and the right, the back slats. Taking a chisel, I clean up the leftovers of the dados, turning them into rabbits. And I decide on keeping the top dado so the slats can slide up in it and be held. And truthfully, I messed up when I ripped the board. I forgot to rip that bit off, but sometimes mistakes work out for the best. I have this roll of wire mesh. Got it for some hay feeders, and I haven't used it in, 4, maybe 5 years. So let's open it up and cut enough to fit in the frame. Be careful, it's sharp, 1/2 inch squares if you're wondering. Now, in all the antique ones I saw from 100, 150 years ago, they made more rabbits and just stapled them in the back. I don't know. I think we can do a little better. They're sharp, and I'd rather rip a slot and slide them into the frame completely. I don't know. It's not authentic, but it's cleaner. I'm just going to call it a design choice. I rip it at the table saw 1/2 inch deep. Sand them quickly at the bench top to smooth any edges and then break down the corners a little. Since I'm going to be putting the wire inside the frame, I apply the finish first. Not 100%, but enough that I won't screw up the screen at the end. I water down a gray acrylic paint and make a nice gray stain and apply it. I don't wipe it off, I let it dry. This gives a nice age to the wood. I give it 2 hours and move right into the final coat, white chalk paint. Just latex or acrylic white paint mixed with a little plaster of Paris. I don't use ratios, I just go by feel, then I apply it. I go quickly and roughly, not caring if places are missed. It's supposed to look old and peeling. Then I set it aside to dry and move right into the cabinet itself. I clean up the rabbets and sand it all down at the Wen 120 grit. Every project there is that one moment where it all comes together, or it doesn't. This is the stressful part for me, because I'm never more than one day ahead of my schedule. So if I fail here, then I have no choice. No video Thursday or Sunday. Or I show my complete fail for all to see. So far, I've been lucky and been able to pull it off somewhat. I'm not using hinges. I have nothing against them. But the way this is designed, I don't want them. I'm going to use a dowel instead. I measure in 3/4 from the edges, then maybe a 1/16 of an inch deeper inside the cabinet for a slight reveal. Reveals are a great way of making an imperfect edge look like it was intentional. It adds some depth and character as well. And also, I'll go a 16 inch further away from the edges to allow the door to pivot. A test fit, a test spin, and I think we're getting there. We dry fit the frame around the wire mesh. Looking tight, we hit it with some Titebond 3 and glue it up. I shoot 2-inch finish nails in the ends to help hold it. The cabinet gets the same treatment as the door. Watered down acrylic, white chalk paint, then rough it all up. I left the outside all gray for right now. Once the cabinet is glued and screwed, we'll hit it all up with the final coat. Okay, the glue up went easy. Easy. And as you know, it normally doesn't. I started with the bottom, some glue, a couple finish nails. Then since I'm painting it, I went ahead and pre-drilled and sunk some screws in. Rounded over the vertical edges of the door, aggressively here, on all 4 sides to even it out, and give it that little touch of clearance to allow it to spin without sticking. I slid a little washer over the bottom dowel to help the pivoting mechanism, and screwed the top on. 5/8 inch staples for the back slats. And here we are. The project of 2025, an egg safe. Come on. The price of eggs, you need to lock those things up now. A couple things here. I filled the screw holes with Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty, my go-to for painted finishes. It's sand smooth, and you mix the powder with water as needed when you need it. Never goes bad. I left these rabbit holes here open, and the ones on the doors as well. I just figured it was something that they would have done 150 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong, but they didn't seem to do unnecessary things. Now the top edge, I cut pieces and glued in up here. And here. Puttied and sanded. I know, I have quirks. A final coat of white paint and another layer of distressing. And these, 2 of them. Shells for the eggs. I didn't paint them. I didn't even install them. Because, well, I don't have room in my kitchen for an actual egg safe. But I love the cabinet. So I might use this for something else. If you do use it for eggs, use a food safe finish, at least for the shelves. One goes on about halfway up. The other just sits on the bottom. 1.25 inch holes for the eggs to sit in. So, you're going to give it a try? And what was your favorite part? For me, I had to make it simply because of the wire mesh. It just goes so well with the wood. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Anything and everything. Until the next time.